Well, this is going to be a different kind of video. I never really have done this kind of video before, but I've always been interested in doing kind of like a discussion about certain things that have been either bugging me or something like in the media that's always been picking at me. Like a certain issue or whatever. Like, say, like an episode of a show I like and it does an issue very poorly. Today I was thinking about talking about revisiting the Family Guy episode Quagmires Dad, because how do I explain this? Lately, I've been going back in the past to figure out when I realized I was transgender and how it all started. And there are a lot of things that brought it up to this point, like that made this all happen for me to realize who I am. And I'll try to talk about that later. But for now, I want to talk about Quagmires Dad and get into more depth of how disgusted I am by that episode. It's on the same part as like Mr. Garrison. I think it was Mrs. Garrison gets a fancy new vagina. It's not a good way to show transgender people. I mean, obviously it's not representing every single person who's transgender, but it's another episode that basically puts them in a bad light. I should, especially if you haven't seen my top 10 worst Family Guy video, you probably should, so you can get a bit more updated what I'm talking about. Like, you can understand why I'm so peeved by this episode. But you know what? If you want to just see it the way it is, then just watch the video. Okay, well, the episode is basically about Quagmire's dad, who just happened to come back from the army and stuff, and he essentially is noticeably flamboyant. He is so flamboyant that Peter and Joe happen to notice when they go to Quagmire's house. So Peter tries to talk to Quagmire about it, and tries his best to talk to him about maybe the possibilities of his father being gay. Obviously, Quagmire's in denial about this. I mean, he's never shown any gay tendencies, so, you know, he just kind of blows Peter off. Later, I think that night at the ball that they have in, you know, celebrating the army for what they've done and stuff, there are not so subtle hints about how Quagmire's dad could be possibly gay. You know, oh, your dad has the best penis in the military, that kind of thing, which, in all fairness, actually was pretty funny. But getting back on track, he finally confronts him and asks if he is gay, I should say, sorry. And again, they add some more, you know, hilarious humor, but saying, oh, I like balls, you know, I like balls, you know, obviously taken out of context, but still. And it's like, it's kind of a bit annoying. It's a little bit funny, but nothing too offensive, typical Family Guy stuff, and it gets worse from here afterwards, but at this point in the episode, it's not too offensive, at least no more than usual, for gay people. And this is pretty much the scene that leads in. It's basically, he confirms that he's not gay, Quagmire's okay, is a little bit relieved, and then abruptly, literally the next line is saying, but I am a woman trapped in a man's body, I'm having surgery this week. I'm not sure how to respond to that. I mean, I guess since you're already talking about being gay, possibly being gay, I guess you might as well get that out of the way, but it just seems so abrupt. I don't want to say that. It just seems so sudden, and it just kind of bugs me that it just kind of glanced over, and he's like, oh, come on, just be gay. I just don't know how to feel about that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, some people are easier to talk to about coming out and stuff, and then other times, people will spend years in quote-unquote the closets until they can finally come out and talk to the right people. I mean, some people are just luckier than others. I mean, even I was kind of lucky with my family because they're very supportive. I mean, my dad is having a bit of a hard time, like any father, but still has very high hopes for me and loves me no matter what. My mom is very open-minded, and I'm more than grateful. I mean, I'm really thankful this is the case, and I'm not being ridiculed or being kicked out because of who I am. I mean, I'm more than grateful every single day that I'm still living with them, that still treat me like one of their own, and that mistreat me because of my gender or sexuality. But, I'm sorry, it's just, that's been bugging me a bit. But getting back to the task at hand, Quagmire ends up talking to Peter and Lois about you know, about his dad being essentially transgender, like, well, me and a bunch of other people I know. And in fairness, even some of the jokes they have at the table aren't as offensive, because in hindsight it kind of makes sense. It's how the same, like, oh, so he wants to have a sex change so she can have sex with guys. Yeah, okay, that means it's gay. No, he's not gay. It's that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, in fairness, they don't know what being transgender is. They don't know the difference between gender and sexuality. I'll give them a pass there. It's the next line that really pisses me off when, you know, like when Lois is encouraging Peter to be with Quagmire that day so he can be supportive, and that's fine, that's all good. Until she misspeaks. I think she says, oh, that's very green of you, or something like that. It doesn't really make sense. They have a weird discussion, briefly. She's like, okay, have fun in the circus. I fucking hate Lois now. I mean, it seems like ever since the revival, for the most, well, not for the most part, basically since season 7 or season 8, she's just horrible. Like, once in a while she'll have good nature, but God, sometimes you just, I mean, I really do wish Stewie just kills her at some point. But getting back to the task at hand, both Peter and Quagmire go to the hospital, and obviously Peter's making rude jokes. I mean, if you were making a joke to lighten up the mood, if you were genuinely trying to make them feel better, saying, hey, you know what, he's becoming a she, that kind of stuff, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, there's nothing wrong with poking a little fun at transgenderism. I mean, like in any situation, you gotta learn to laugh at yourself and realize, hey, this isn't the worst, I'm not dying, I'm just not who I was born as, and I can change that. There are options. It's not a life or death scenario, and you know what, you can just poke a little fun, realize it's not bad, but it's kind of offensive where, well, I can't even say really offensive, it's just a little bit annoying when Peter's like, you know, every 5 minutes, she should come out like a different sex, and we'll play this kind of music. Okay, that's not really counterproductive at all. And when Quagmire's, well, dad comes out, like, I'm not even sure if you could refer to her as dad anymore, or just mom, or second mom, or whatever, she looks pretty decent, and this is leading up to a lot of problems, which I'll lead on later on when Brian comes into the picture, but in fairness, she looks pretty decent. It looks like she was still born slightly differently, but still looks appealing. You couldn't really tell the difference if she was born male or not, and I'll give them credit for at least making her look respectful and not just, you know, embarrassing or whatever, saying, dude, trans people aren't people, they're just monsters or Frankenstein creatures or whatever. You know, those stupid arguments. Just whatever. One thing, okay, by the next scene, they invite Quagmire and his dad, or mom, or whatever, to dinner, or I guess I should say Aya, and what leads to before the next scene afterwards is that she made I guess like a casserole sign from what I recall, and she gives it to Lois, and then she's like, I can't remember what it was specifically, but I think it was something like, throw this in the back trash bin or something. No, throw it outside in the back trash bin. And, in all honesty, I don't know why that's offensive, because I don't get the reference. Is it because she doesn't like her cooking? Is it because she just doesn't trust trans people? I don't get the joke. It's just because she's a bitch, which really, by the 13th season, I'm more than willing to believe. I mean, this is the same woman who heard that Peter might have been, you know, raped at one point, or been sexually assaulted by her boss, by his boss, just a few episodes ago, and just laughed it off and saying, oh, man, can get sexually harassed, bullshit. So yeah, the dinner goes the way you think that family got with, oh, hey, I have to say this, how's it like missing your penis? You know, there are polite ways to ask. There are to say, hey, how's it like being a woman now? How's it like not being a man? All that kind of stuff. And, it just gets more offensive, and it's just a typical joke. Yeah, no nuts, wieners or grapes, blah, blah, blah. And Quagmire obviously is upset by this, because obviously it's really hard for him, and he leaves. So, by the next scene, Quagmire is still pretty upset about this whole issue, and is not even I have to say, Quagmire is not really in the wrong for how he's feeling. It's not his dad being transgender or gay or whatever is the issue. It's just the fact that he just kind of springs out onto Quagmire literally not even a day or so before the surgery and just expects him to be all accepting. I mean, especially my family, took a while. I mean, well, my mom was much more accepting. She's much more accepting that kind of thing. But the rest of my family, you know, it takes time. It takes time to adjust. It takes time to understand the situation. It takes time to process the idea of your brother or your father or whoever or your cousin or whatever, and just having them be the opposite sex. I mean, it's a huge fucking thing. And even I knew that when I was coming out. So, I mean, obviously I just want to say I haven't taken any hormone pills or anything, or hormone stoppers, so that's why my voice is still guyish. I mean, I'm gonna actually start practicing doing a girl voice pretty soon in some of my videos to see how it's like, but get back to the video, getting back to the episode. Quagmire promptly calls her Aya Al because what he's saying is valid. I mean, for the most part, it is valid, in which, you know, you didn't give me enough time to understand the situation, and now it's a hard time for me to fully accept. I don't think Quagmire is transphobic. I'm far from it, and it clearly shows later. It's just, again, a hard time. And this is the part where Brian finally comes into the picture. I should mention before, if you haven't seen the previous video that... Oh, that doesn't matter. Anyway, if you haven't seen my previous video, that Brian went off for 2/3 of the episode to go to one of those online seminar kind of things. It's like a web seminar, whatever. I guess he's trying to learn stuff and whatnot. And literally, Peter and Lois are just complete asses to him for no reason. They thought literally he's just gonna like run off or just move away or die or whatever, and they're just being nonchalant. And then, you know, Peter's like, you know, or I can't remember whether it was Peter or Lois that said this, but one of them said that, you know, when you die, we're gonna put you into a pillowcase and bury you in the backyard, and it's like, it won't bug us all. Yeah, try saying that when you see Life of Brian. That might episode's any better. And, you know, despite this airing after Now Dogs Go to Heaven, Brian didn't really deserve any of the bad treatment he got in this episode, because he didn't even do anything. He wasn't egotistical, he wasn't an ass, he wasn't... okay, actually there was one scene where he just kind of tells Meg to be quiet, but that's literally it. That doesn't justify him getting beaten up later by Quagmire, but I'll get to that later. Quagmire comes back from his seminar and unintentionally meets up with Aya, who he doesn't know, who had just recently had surgery. And in fairness, they have a nice discussion about how, you know, Brian had done a seminar, and Aya has her problems with family, and, you know, her sibling, not siblings, I mean, her, you know, I guess I should just say family, I can't think of the term, and basically they bang, pretty much. I mean, yes, it takes a lot longer, it's not just 2 sentences, then, oh yeah, let's go have sex. It obviously looks like they had taken a while to consider that idea, since they had a lot of drinks, after a fade in, like a crossfade, whatever. Then this is what leads to a major problem for me. It's not the fact that it's mainly, I know for a fact that people who have surgery, like a sex change operation, should not, I repeat, shouldn't, or I think even can't, have sexual intercourse at the moment, at that particular time, because the opposite, they just had surgery down there, and it takes a while for that to heal. And this whole confliction of Brian and Aya, I'll talk about later when we talk about Quagmire again. But let's talk about the next day, where Brian comes home and he's about to explain how he had a great weekend and stuff, and Lois just says, hey, do you have a good weekend? Yes or no? And she doesn't give him a chance to explain anything. She's just completely ruined this episode for no reason. I don't know why. Is this supposed to lead up to something? It doesn't lead up to anything with them. He doesn't even get an apology. Brian shows Lois and Pierre a picture of the person he met last night, and all they do is just laugh at him. I mean, they don't even explain the issue. They don't explain why they're laughing. They just laugh, and Brian's like, oh, well, you just don't know what kind of woman I met last night. And they just laugh hard because, you know, hardy-dur, he slept with a man, as some people like to quote it as. I mean, actually, I can't remember who quoted that. Obviously, that's not the case. Oh, trans women are still women. That's the way I've always seen it. And that's the way it is, pretty much. I mean, that's who you are. And it's just ignorant to say, oh, he had sex with a man, what's the point of laugh? Ha ha ha! I just hate when people do that. I just hate, they won't even explain it, they just laugh. Stewie's the only one who, besides Meg, Stewie's the only one who actually gives Brian any attention and actually listens to what's going on within the last few days, as they actually, in fairness, do talk seriously about the issue, briefly, about how it is hard to be transgender, and how there's just a lot of issues like sex, or how to get around without being, you know, essentially being in a lot of trouble from other people, being beaten up or whatever, because there are definitely sick people out there who will do horrible things just because you're gay, or you're trans, or you're whatever. It's all just basically a hate crime. Well, that's all it is. It is a hate crime. And it's horrible. I mean, nobody should be treated that way just because of their sexuality, just because of their gender, just because of issues of anything. Once, like I mentioned before in the video, once Brian finds out he essentially, quote-unquote, swept with a man, you know, he ends up vomiting for 30 full seconds. And as disgusting as this is, and as unappealing as it is to look at, I kind of see where Seth MacFarlane was talking about earlier. If you saw my video, I also talked about this too. Essentially, it's the equivalent of a gay man being not being interested in a vagina. It kind of grosses them out. Okay, I get where you're going for. I actually do. I really do. But there has to be a way you can make this a little less disgusting. Have him just run off and vomit somewhere else. Just have him be a little bit ill. Just have him, like, clench his stomach, like, oh my god, I did that last night. Or just, you gotta make it aware to the audience that he's not transphobic at all, but just conflicted, not knowing how to feel about this. Just having him vomit on the floor and say, I met him last night at the bar, I met him last night at the bar, I had sex with Quagmires Dad, whatever. Just, no, you can't do that. I just feel offended by this. And the episode's not even over, there's like 3 more minutes. Aya comes home the next day, and she does end up apologizing for just putting this all on Quagmire. And Quagmire immediately apologizes too, realizing that he should have been more supportive and more open, at least try to be more open to her scenario, given all the crap she's already been through and how she's been feeling. And of course, I have to end it on a boner reference. Derby derb. Oh, I can't tell the difference. I know you're a woman. I know you're technically my dad, but you're a woman now, so duh, my penis can't tell the difference. And this is where it gets abysmal, except for one really funny line near the end, right at the end of the episode. Essentially, Aya apparently meets a new guy, and she tells Quagmire about it, and Quagmire is horrified when he finds out that it's Brian. Now, this is what leads to the main problem. Brian gets beaten up by Quagmire because, well, he had sex with her. Why did you beat him up again? I mean, why did you beat Brian up again? What did he possibly do? I mean, he didn't know that it was his dad. He didn't do anything offensive. He didn't offend her in any way. I mean, by the sounds of it, they were completely happy last night up to this point. So why are you beating Quagmire? I mean, why are you beating Brian up? I mean, I know Quagmire has been hating Brian since like the beginning of season 8, but that doesn't justify why you beat him up, even if he had sex with your dad or mom or Aya or whatever you want to call her. I mean, you can call her Goofy Pants McGee for all I care. I mean, what I'm saying is that it doesn't make sense. Again, Brian did nothing wrong. Okay, the whole idea of possibly being transphobic is debatable, but besides that, for the most part, this episode shows that he did absolutely nothing wrong. He got beaten up by Quagmire because I guess you're not allowed to have sex with Aya, I guess. Oh crap, I got a message. But, just give me a second. But, you know, what I'm basically trying to say is that it just seems weird that they would just put this in there. It's not like, okay, let's just say if Brian was offensive to Aya and Aya told Quagmire about it, then that would be justifiable. Then it would make sense that Quagmire would get all snippy and pissed off at Brian and beat him up. But all they did was have sex. That's it. This isn't an issue. I mean, okay, this was later on in the series and Brian had herpes and gave it to Aya, that would make more sense. But that's not an option either, I guess. I guess Brian has to be beaten up because I guess Seth hates his own character. It does end up funny though, where I mean, yes, again, this is pretty, somewhat transphobic, or maybe, I'm not sure how you would define it if she's still technically a dad, but a woman now. He basically says, hey, I fucked your dad, and slams the door in front of Quagmire, which is a really funny moment, but I'm not sure how to feel because is it offensive? Is it not? What else we refer to her as? I mean, obviously I am, but I mean, we still refer to her as your dad, your second mom? It's just really confusing, and I never felt happy with this episode. I mean, when I saw it 5 years ago, I didn't really think much of it because, well, one, I didn't realize I was transgender, and second, I just didn't have a much more of an understand how offensive it could be. I was just thinking it's more like satire and stuff. I mean, you know what? South Park is satire, and they do it much better. I mean, they obviously didn't do it good in that, the first episode, the episode I mentioned earlier, Mr. Garrison gets a sex change abruptly. But they did manage to redeem themselves with the episode Sissy. It's like an apology note for that episode. And yeah, it has Carmen being a bit offensive and being a bit of a douche, like saying, oh yeah, well, I'm technically transgender now, I got my own bathroom, but I expect that from Cartman because he's always a sociopath as is, and we all know that. We know he's an ass. And also he's a kid, so he may or may not have a full understanding of how serious the issue is. But surprisingly, for the rest of the episode, they do treat the whole trans issue seriously, and it's never belittled in any way. Excluding maybe a little bit in Cartman's case, but even that scenario, even in that plot, it manages to bite him in the ass by the end. So I say that still worked out pretty well for everybody. Overall, Quagmires Dad is a very, very bad episode, and that's why it was so low on my list. I mean, so high on my list, I should say, because I mean, it was number 2, right next to that domestic abuse episode, and by now it would probably be updated a little bit because keep in mind I wrote that script back in like 2013. I finished some of it back like a month before I ended up putting it on TV. Putting it on online stuff, and that was because back then, especially, I didn't realize how bad many of the episodes were. I knew there's still a huge fan base for Family Guy, so I just wanted to look at the absolute worst, at least in my opinion. But now, a lot more people have seen how Family Guy's become, and I'm definitely a lot more open about my opinion, and I'm definitely much more active to start talking about even worse episodes. There's definitely worse episodes of Family Guy now that I'm really disgusted by, and I can't wait to talk about in the future. Like I said before, if you want to see a serious, if you want to see an episode, like I said before, if you want to see an episode of an animated show that takes transgenderism seriously, just watch this Sissy from South Park. I mean, despite its name, it really fits in the episode. The name Sissy, it actually means 2 things, you know. And, essentially, I already mentioned this, again, another thing in my video that I mentioned, but in case you didn't see that, there is this website, there's like this webcomic, I should say, called Between the Lines, I should say. Essentially, it got rebooted 3 times, and there are 4 chapters from the second reboot that you can view online anytime. Essentially, it starts 2 transgender teens who are just trying to figure out who they are and trying to live the daily lives through all the crap that gets thrown at them, and they're trying to be optimistic. I hope to, and it's just, sorry, I keep just backtracking, and it's just it's influential to say the least. It's not a thing we read and say, yeah, these are good role models. These are just kids like you or me, well, or anyone else, and it's something just to be relatable to. It's just something that you can picture yourself as, or in the scenario. And I credit who made the strip and who did really well. I mean, there are some minor cliches here and there and some flaws a little bit, mainly because it only made it to 4 chapters, and even then the 4th chapter didn't even finish. They just stopped at page 20, and they said, and she's like, screw it, reboot. Just made a reboot. I don't know why, but I don't care. I mean, I'm glad it's still continuing. I'm glad it's still making something out of it. So, well, I should say she is. But so, yeah. Again, I am very happy for the strip. I'm glad. I'm glad that it exists, because if it I'm pretty sure if it wasn't, I wouldn't have known that I was transgender, because keep in mind, the whole reason I brought this episode up today is because had enough of it for that strip, I would have never known that. I never would have known the term of being a trans person, or being pansexual, or gay, or bi, or whatever. I knew what being gay and bi was, but I didn't know what being transgender was. I didn't even know what the term meant. I had all these confusing feelings just within that year alone, back in 2012, and this strip brought me to a different perspective on things, and helped me understand certain things that I never understood before. Again, just fuck this episode. just fuck it the hell, whatever. Just give that strip a chance. I'll leave a link in the description below. I've never done one of those before I actually advertise it, but I am doing it this time, especially for this case. And if you want to see an episode, like an animated episode that does transgenderism right and treats the issue very, very seriously, just watch that South Park episode I mentioned earlier. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to my video, and I hope that while watching this, I hope you can see my perspective for why I dress the way I do, and how I act in certain videos and stuff, or how I dress, or do my hair, or just do anything. And I hope that maybe encourage you to finally come out. Maybe you're not in a good place right now, and you need like a friend to talk to that can be very trustworthy. Maybe this video helped you a little bit. I really hope it did, because to an extent, I know how it feels to be alone. I know how it feels to not be who you are. I don't really have much else to say, so I'll see you guys next time.